everyone. Thanks so much for showing up. And a huge thanks to A2IM for organizing a really fun group of panelists and for what we hope will be a really interesting discussion on the essential role of visuals in a new release campaign. I think first up we should just introduce who we are. I'm Liz from Nettwerk.
I'm Annie from Vevo.
Hi, I'm Storme from Red Bull Records.
I'm Lina with Secretly Distribution, not United Masters, but.
And I'm Dan with Acrophase Records.
Right. And whether you're here representing a label, an independent artist, or another platform, I'm sure you've been facing the increasing pressure to deliver more and more visual assets for every single release campaign. And also feeling the stress of the budgets that go along with it. So on today's panel, we're going to discuss the most important visual elements to consider when putting together a campaign. We're going to segment the panel into two sections. First, we're going to talk about short form content and how best to create and budget for it. And then it'll be followed by a discussion on full-length music videos and whether they still play the same crucial role. So this wouldn't be a proper panel about visuals without a visual component. So before we jump into the discussion, here's a quick video with some short form content. If you could please play the first reel.
While trying to tell the stories of now, of endless days and nights paralyzed by anxiety and fear in a world on fire, there was someone else who everything kept pointing back to. A 14-year-old queer girl from the suburbs of religious Utah.
Counting on the weatherman.
How to recreate an 80s Japanese music TV program for a music video in 2021. Step 1, listen to a bunch of idol and city pop era music. Step 2, watch reruns of Best of 10 and Uta no Top 10. Step 3, make a stage plot. Step 4, give that stage plot to your friend who knows how to build things. Step 20, with your N5 abilities, translate the lyrics. Step 21, export and upload. Step 22, wonder how in the world your video passed 800,000 views. And step 23, thank everyone who helped to make it all happen, and thank everyone for watching. And that's
First questions we wanted to talk about is what types of short form content really work. Storme, I thought that Ace's example was a really great use of episodic artist content.
Yeah, so we were talking about this. So the Aces have, the drummer is actually a creative director and a director herself. So we've been really my job has been really trying to encourage her and find that space where she can direct. And so when we came to this campaign, we always have the question, do we go and make music videos? Do we do something different? We always need to do all of it. So we tried to really get creative with the budget. And in a space of I think it was a day and a half shoot, instead of shooting one video, we ended up with 24 episodics that she wrote and directed. Every single one is bespoke to each song on the record. So there's 12 songs on the record. There's an A and a B for each track. And then that piece was the start of the campaign. So it was like an album manifesto, because when the band came in and read us a speech about this record, I was crying. So I was like, we have to make something with that. So we basically kicked it all off with this little teaser manifesto where the band are talking about, that's Crystal's voice reading out the manifesto of the record, giving a glimpse into the world of what the fans are going to see. And then every track we've released episodics and then also lyric visualizers as well. So it just gave them a much more compelling world than let's motion graphic the artwork again because we ran out of money and we spent it all on one big shoot. And I think it also really gave them such an awesome opportunity to basically write mini movies in one day. And we've also held a lot back post-release so they can continue to roll that out. Now the album came out last week, plug, and they'll be rolling that out for the next couple of weeks. So each track gets its own moment and the fans are engaging really well with it. The views up there just show the one post on Instagram, but across the platforms, we're at like 1.3, I think, 1.3 million with what we've rolled out so far from it, which is really awesome for them. You know, like fans got really into the world of what they've unveiled, so it was fun.
That's really great. I know a lot of artists aren't comfortable with creating native content on the spot, so working around that, I think, is sometimes a challenge. I was thinking that the behind-the-scenes thing you did, Dan, on the ginger root was a good example of a way to kind of get around that.
Yeah. Cameron, who is ginger root, is like the project speaks kind of almost visually first. So having stuff that can live on different platforms and be exclusive to different platforms was like a big part of the last record cycle and that record cycle as well that video is from. But we had a long conversation about, I think a lot of people fall into the trap of like just following the lead of what's really working for others in that space. And so his sort of thought process was to build a space where it was all about leaving the platform and like consuming the long form content from it. So videos like that, or like a super condensed way for him to grab people's attention and not just like beat them over the head with that original piece of content and just plucking something from it. So I think it gave it a little more depth, and it was super helpful in like launching the sort of algorithmic success behind it at YouTube. All the movement from TikTok to YouTube really kind of shifted things for that, which was great.
Yeah, really great. Are any of you finding that short forms can be budget breakers, or are you coming up with creative ways to get things done? I know with the Wild Rivers example up there, we did a content day, and we're able to film a bunch of ideas around the theme of the song. Don't know if any of you experienced the same thing.
I think we all experience that.
I mean, yeah, I wanted to jump in just like from the distributor perspective. Like it's coming at it with more of like a macro view, and it's not so much like we're not dealing with budgeting. But I did want to just mention that we're constantly thinking with short form content, like how this can be, you do want to make it specific for each platform whenever possible, but also just considering that now you're looking at areas like Spotify that want clips. And it's kind of like, if anybody was in the panel from before this, there's like this constant checklist of all of these different things that you can be doing with DSPs to like ensure that you're doing everything that you possibly can, so that when you go back to speak with these reps, you can have a conversation. So like Spotify clips, Apple Music art, motion artwork, artist motion artwork. Yeah. So it's kind of like using the short form content that you would traditionally think about for social platforms, but making sure that you're also considering all the other additional platforms that are like accepting and looking for this content right now. So something that, I guess that doesn't quite answer your question with regards to budgeting, but it's like making sure that you can repurpose it wherever possible, which might not be as interesting to a fan, but that would certainly help keep your budget down.
Well, definitely. I think, it used to be just like if you can grab liners on a shoot day, or when you have, especially if an artist is a band where there's more than one person, like grab liners when they're all in the same room. But that used to literally just be this. Like, for Apple, there's very specific things you can and can't do when you're supplying to that. So that has become fun to build into a shoot day. I hope no one from Apple's going to tell me off for saying that, but it is fun. It's like, it's a creative challenge. Some artists are very much, I'm sure people in this room know, it's like some artists will go into a shoot and they're very like focused on getting that done, especially artists who've been around for a while. Like, the music video used to be this big piece in the campaign, so people are really focused and working on that. Other artists, especially I'm finding with newer artists, are so down to do whatever we throw at them on the day, so we have to plan in all these extra ancillary pieces into the shoot day, and we're basically baking them into a shot list to make sure we're getting it all in one day, and it feels elevated, because otherwise you literally are calling up an artist being like, oh, shit, we forgot to do this thing. Could you please like grab this in your house? And it's, no one wants to do that. So you definitely just have to plan ahead and, plan out that day. Especially, I'm sure most people, we're doing it with promo shoots as well. If we have time, we're adding in the video, the photos, all these ancillary pieces. And then you have the BTS and all the other pieces. So you're really going into a shoot with like a 30-piece deliverable list. And also managing artist expectations going into that, and making sure they have time to eat and relax and get their head into shifting gears is quite important too.
I mean, we even feel this on the DSP platform side of things. I work directly with our original content team, working with artists to create mostly performance content, and we see the same thing in a shoot day. We primarily use short form content to promote our originals and the music videos that come out on the platform. But even fitting that short form content into those content shoots and making sure that it is something that's maybe slightly different from the piece of content that we're actually shooting. And making sure that the artist is happy with it and having the time to do it is all also very stressful to get in a single day shoot when we're trying to capture 3 or 4 songs with an artist in a day.
I think also like we're seeing some of our newer artists actually asking, hey, I don't know if I want to do a music video for this, but they know they want to shoot content. So like, for example, like what you're saying, we have a shoot coming up which is a really low budget, and we're catching 3. I don't know, I love to have this debate with everyone, what is a visualizer and what is not a music video, and because there's a constant argument in our office of because everyone goes, well, no, it's not a music video, but basically you want a music video for no budget. That's basically what our task is. And so we're going to go do a shoot for a day. We're shooting 3 visualizers, but the expectation going in from the artist, therefore, is I'm not making a massive music video that day. I actually feel really excited about writing 3 visualizer ideas that are elevated visualizers in the same space. And then we have way more room to do all these ancillary pieces that are not like an afterthought anymore. And I think that's like a shift I'm seeing with especially newer artists that are I think they're just living more in the short form space than if artists who've used to three singles into a campaign with a video.
I feel like there's the generational shift is happening in real time too, where artists that are signing record deals now who are 18, 19, 20 are way more intuitive with how content exists for them, and they can be a way more integral part versus sometimes that's a lot to ask at a long form level for an artist. For us, we're a small label, and sometimes you're on a shoestring budget. You're you have to be as cheap as possible with stuff. And I think something that we've tried to do is be more reactionary with short form rather than making it the center point of everything. Trying to do it as paying attention to how things are moving in a space like YouTube, or if the Reels algorithm is being supportive of what the artist is doing, and then at that point it's easier to be a little bit more supportive and carve out budget. But I think I'm still a firm believer in the value of long form, and I think it has I think it's really easy to get overly excited about short form, but I think they have to work together. So if you can make short form not a secondary priority, but if you can really still harness the value out of the long form and then push people to TikTok and those sorts of spaces, I think can be more valuable.
I love what you said, Dan, about newer artists, maybe it's a generational thing, but being more intuitive, because we have this artist, this new artist that's just signed to us called Chris LaRocca, and we're everyone in our building is a fan of his. And we did official video, and it was a shoestring budget. The video was amazing. And then he came back and was like, hey, I'm just going to do a shoot with some friends this weekend in my apartment of a live version of the song. So we're my team assembles, and we're we'll help them out with cameras and stuff. And this guy delivered one of the best pieces of content I've ever seen. He had 20 friends who were all incredible musicians just from his scene in Toronto come around his house, and they're playing cards, and it was a single shot. They ended up doing it on our iPhone because it was easier to move around the house. And now we were all like, it costs nothing. He just pulled favors from his friends. So we ended up with an extra audio piece, which showed our brand new artist that he's not just a studio guy. Like, he can play, he can sing. It brought his community in, so he had tons of people to share that content with because they were all involved in it. And, you know, we obviously then got to put the money behind ads for it and supporting it, which was amazing. And now he's doing like a ton of them. And it literally was just, he was just doing it. And I think that's like such a great, you know, example of just like, I actually like want to embrace like this specific platform, and and I like making music with my friends. So here, so
Yeah, I would jump in and just add also that like obviously that spontaneity of like being able to create short form content is like a dream come true, I'm sure, for a label and an artist. That's like
Not everyone can do that.
Yeah, not everyone can do that. It's really difficult. But I would also say that, you know, speaking with like social media DSP reps and just like spontaneity is like difficult, but you can also like, depending on your vibe, we work with like a lot of like ambient artists and just like filming like your surroundings and like posting that and playing your track over it. I mean, it's just like trying to be creative with like, if you don't want to show your face, we get it. I'm definitely like, well, that's going to make things complicated, but you know, it happens. I completely understand. So it's like, try to, and you know, it's part of like discussing your campaign too. Like, what's the vibe of the campaign? Is there something else here, some other theme that maybe we can look at where the visuals can help tell the story, and even like short form visuals can like still help tell that story? Because I don't know about for y'all, but for me, like listening to a song is one thing, but a lot of times when you like see a compelling video that's like attached to it, it's like hitting that additional like sense, and it's just like easier to remember. I mean, I can think about, you know, like lots of great music videos that I've seen in the past where it's like you are never gonna forget that. But yeah.
Yeah, really great point. And if you have the artist engaged to help with that, it's the best case scenario. But as you mentioned, there's ways around it too. So.
Well, yeah, and I think as a label or even a distributor, like we can all sit down and try to help them have that creative process to, you know, find a way to still engage in these spaces. Find a way to engage, yeah, I mean, I guess that's like the ultimate goal, but find a way to engage in a way that they're comfortable with is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think also some artists don't like certain platforms, you know, just to your point. Like, some people are definitely a lot more private, or, you know, the thought of, like, we have a duo from Australia, and they are, like, incredible producers. And we're like, just shoot some UGC if you're in front of your, you know, and they're like, they are very, like, they want perfected visuals because that's how they make their music. So, you know, we're really having to think and work with them as management are, you know, really like try and nurture, okay, like you've got to honor what they do and don't feel comfortable with, right? And you to like find a platform that feels good for them. If someone really hates TikTok, like you're probably not going to get anywhere just like yelling at them, go on TikTok. It's not going to work. You know, you've got to try and find ways to, you know, help them feel supported and, you know, like ideate and brainstorm with them, and hopefully something does start to work that they can then lean into and replicate on an easy basis for them to keep using.
I think it's also good to try to like squash any stigmas of social platforms when you can, if you can. I mean, I know as like somebody millennial, like I originally had an interpretation of TikTok, you know, which I think is now very different from what it actually is. There's a lot more like adult content that you can consume on TikTok than maybe there previously was when it first started. But
you mean like house cleaning TikTok? Will I watch?
Does that look like what I watch?
I do. That's like all I get. I mean, I think at the end of the day, knowing your artists and staying true to their brand is like the most important thing in both the short form and long form pieces of content, because if you're not representing an artist correctly, then it's probably not the best use of your time, resources, energy.
Well, they'll also get pissed off and stop doing it. They just won't do
Totally.
it.
That too.
You'll get one and you'll think, yeah, we hit the jackpot, and then they won't want to do it again. So
I think patience is so essential too with it, because like there's the misconception that as soon as you start putting effort towards one of these platforms where short form is essential, that it's just gonna succeed, and like the feeling of defeat of putting effort into something and it like being exposed to no one is hard for the artist to overcome. It's easy from like the label or the distributor side to be like, just keep pumping it out. Like, come on, it's gonna work out at some point. So I think like patience and letting them
hate us when we say that.
yeah, have like letting them have work at their own pace and stuff. It'll be better in the long run.
It's reassuring to me to hear, like, from other people in the industry, the universal challenges. We all face the same things. So. All right, anything else on short form we want to dive into before we talk about the official music video?
The official music
Are-
video.
Are you okay on the volume for us to play the second video? All right, thanks.
I see you walking down the rail. I see you coming near.
Mother made nymph, then a virgin, nurse, then a servant, just an appendage, live to attend him so that he never lifts a finger. 24/7 baby machine, so he can live out his picket fence dreams. It's not an act of love if you make her, you make me do too much labor. I'm a rider.
Girl, you chosen. Fuck it up when you bust wide open. It's the ocean. I'm just imposing that you give it to me and just me only. Yeah. Girl, you chosen. Fuck it up when you bust wide open. It's the ocean. I'm just imposing that you give it to me and just me only.
Thank you. So with so many artists still married to the idea of an official music video, how do we prove the case that they're still worth it? I think from the platform side, Annie, you had some interesting stats there.
Yeah, so obviously Vevo being the world's biggest music video network, we clearly think that music video content is still very important and crucial. And we obviously have our own in-house research team, but we also work with external research. And just a few stats that I thought were important to share for the purposes of this room. As you saw, 79% of people are still saying that official music videos are crucial. Almost 80% of people say that they watch music videos to feel culturally connected. And also an interesting stat, especially for artists that are still in the discovery phase, 72% of people who discover a new artist then go back to watch their official music video catalog. So not only is a new piece of official music video content relevant to your audience, but it's also bringing new fans back to an artist's YouTube channel to watch catalog content and sort of keep them in their environment for a longer period of time. I also think we obviously spend a lot of time talking about artists, on various other platforms when we're talking on the short form side. But just wanted to say, like, one official piece of content, obviously going in an artist's YouTube channel, directly pings fans, but you're almost not even thinking about the fact that then that piece of content can be picked up in a number of curated playlists across the platform, which again raises your relevancy to new fans and people who haven't discovered the artist. And then Vevo has seen, especially in the last couple of years, this ginormous rise in connected television. We now are in about 96 million households across connected TV platforms, almost 20 providers across, or almost 20 channels across over 30 providers across the globe. And it's really like us navigating into this recently untapped market to put music videos back in a space where people are consuming them in a way different fashion than they are even in like the short form environment. We're seeing session times of over 30 minutes. So people come, they put on the channel, they watch for a long period of time, and numbers show that it's at least 2 people watching for every session. So just thinking about places that official music video content can go that short form content doesn't necessarily live in, and exposing your artists to a completely different audience of people.
Swish.
Really great. All right, and then Lina, the Ghost with the Peach Skin video, it really seemed to speak to wider artist branding. Is that the way it worked out for you?
Yeah, so Moiju is like very much a developing artist. And this example just came to mind for me because the branding was so strong, the imagery was so strong, it's very memorable. The artists, came at the front of the campaign, and I'm talking like, and this is like for a developing artist, so this is like, this person is so in tune with music industry and coming prepared, because I think it was like 8 months before, the album release, we're talking about stickers that they're working with the designer to create. They're working with a team to shoot this music video. Nail art, which was amazing, part of this campaign. So just a lot of different like visual elements to help bring people back, and help, make people remember and sort of like do a double take when they see this artist. And I think, part of this campaign, one of the main reasons we were actually able to like land this marketing opportunity with YouTube Music, Moiju was just featured on a billboard, part of Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month last month, which was, just an incredible look for an artist who started their campaign. We grew the official artist channel from maybe like 15 subscribers, and now it's like, I think they still only have like 700 or so it's not like a massive trajectory, but it's still something that made the artists like super proud. And I imagine that we'll continue to see that official artist channel grow, especially with like the use of shorts, because it goes out to subscribers that don't subscribe to you, and there's just like lots of different levels that you can keep pulling as part of this campaign. I think you're gonna hear it here over and over again this week, like the campaign is not over when the record releases. So we'll continue working this as time goes on. But yeah.
And we found a similar sort of thing with Mallrat as a branding element the video acted as. It was able to be used across Apple Motion Graphics and Canvas and all sorts of things. Even the album cover tied into it. So, And then in terms of, I know this isn't best practices, but sometimes even the official music video can work as a TikTok piece that does drive back to the official music video. That was the case with Paris Paloma. We used a segment of the official music video on TikTok that drove up over 8 million views, that then in turn drove 8 million views for the official video. So
I loved what you did there with that, because I love when you go into a shoot and if you can, like we're talking about giving something different to different platforms, like if you can think of, and it's hard depending where you're at. If you're like a manager, you probably have more access to it. If you're a label, sometimes they don't want to know, but like sometimes they do. It's like, if you can go into a shoot and think, I want to shoot at this angle for this specific platform. So like you had like an iPhone kind of shot of the table with the food that became the lyric visualizer next. Like that is like creative direction dream. Imagine if you had that like 10 times and you had a different angle of a camera shot of her, like her face here, and this is what you're seeing in the video. Like all those kind of playful things you get to do are like how you can do something a little bit more bespoke and still like honor the main video. And to your point, then you've also got these pieces that you can keep going back to partners with and DSPs and like, really, give them something specific that is in the world for that content piece that you're driving, essentially.
Yeah, it really speaks to having access to the raw assets of the video as well.
And also just planning ahead, like thinking, okay, you might need 2 BTS people, or management might need to be there with a phone and then bring someone else that like is a friend or a partner or something. And if you can't afford an extra BTS person, like thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
It's also using your resources wisely, knowing you have a budget for a music video, but managing to come out of it with 4 different pieces that you can release strategically to continue to ping the YouTube algorithm and continue to use to promote projects and videos down the line after the initial sort of week of release push.
And then that chosen video that you added in there, it's
That was an expensive video.
Yeah.
It had Ty Dolla $ign and Tiger in it as well. So, you know, featured artist, whoop, those costs go straight up. But yeah, that was a really amazing moment for Blast. And, you know, so Blast is like the head of his own company, Eagle, which is a joint venture with Rebel Records. So as you can see a lot of Eagle branding in his videos, which again, like we're talking about branding, like it is in every video. Like they wear the chain, they have like that video in particular, to your point about cultural relevance, it was like so awesome. Like it had this whole college set up, and you know, they've been building their brand as well through the music videos, which is really awesome. And it's his brand, you know, he owns that company. So, you know, that video that is a very traditional example that, you know, we spent quite a bit of money to make a video that we wouldn't really make a video like that. And we don't for every Blast track by any means. He doesn't want to spend tons of money on videos either. But it drove 84 million views, I think it was, and we took it to radio, and, you know, that song you know, cemented him in, you know, for every award he's been nominated for over the last year, and is killing it right now. So it was a good strategic move for us to like make that investment with him on that. And it doesn't make sense all the time, you know, and I think it's like really part of like educating the artists throughout as to when it does make sense and when it doesn't, because at least we're all indie labels here. Like I used to be a manager, so I've had artists on majors and indies, and you know, no one wants to ever get an artist in the hole that they can't get out of, right, financially. So it's being really strategic with that spend. I come from old music videos. I want to make $300,000 music video movies all the time, but you know, one, we don't have that kind of money in the industry anymore to do that, but also it's like the main thing is making sure we can spend money promoting those videos. You're better off spending $2,000 on a video and $5,000 on promoting it, and that is really, you know, and across all these platforms, that's like the best gift that you can do, like working and taking that time per artist, per track, and figuring out what is going to be the best move here, what other key pieces have we got to play, and who do we need to take a big bulky video like that to. If you've got radio campaign, it makes sense to show this is like a real mover for us. But then if you're, you know, really leaning in on editorial with DSPs, you really want to like make sure you're feeding that algorithm there and like doing everything that like best practices for that platform. So it's really bespoke for everyone.
Yeah.
One, I was even gonna add, hopefully with those featured artists, you could get some value back.
Oh, 100%,
with all
yeah.
the social posting
Yeah,
and support
exactly.
that those featured artists can
And
provide.
if anyone in the room is doing anything with featured artists, make sure you get that in your contracts that they will support. Don't go spend loads of money on a video or on a track, and then it's like, you know, oh, like the number doesn't work anymore. Make sure everyone makes friends, and you know, and they are going to post and share, because that is one, how the relationships get built, and you know, those favors go back and forth between labels and companies and artists, and it definitely makes a huge impact. You know, it's been really wonderful to see. Like, he has such a great network of featured artists that he works with and he features, and he really supports other artists, and it's been, you know, a really wonderful community he's been building as he's been growing. So it's been really important.
Sometimes additionally, it's a way to like, with artists who, you know, just as a way to encourage them to support, it's a way to dust off their own algorithms by just posting. So you could kind of try to sell it to them in that way if you don't have like a contractual obligation. But.
I also think that obviously it takes a lot of planning, but it doesn't necessarily take $300,000 to make an amazing
That wasn't
video.
$300,000, by the way, just in case you didn't recall it. That didn't cost that much.
I'll make up a different
Those
number.
are the dreams.
But, you know, you obviously need to put some thought behind it, but we see plenty of videos made by artists and their friends that resonate with their audience that don't cost that amount of money. And just from an anecdotal perspective, we've seen sort of a shift in artists that we've been talking to in terms of content and sort of how they digest it. We've actually, the Discover example that was in the video, we had an artist who was like 19 come in and shoot Discover with us a couple of months ago. And literally his manager pulled me aside and he was like, it has been his dream to shoot on this set since he started making music. And so we've really seen this like shift of sort of the focus being like doing like the Tonight Show and like some of those like late night things with Gen Z, especially in creating like really relevant content on YouTube. And these beautiful performances that we create being very powerful amongst like the Gen Z artists and their community, because that's kind of what they grew up watching and that's what they want to make. I think music videos fall into that category still, because I think music videos are timeless and we are definitely in a different age. We are not in the age when I first started of the music videos that were $1 million budgets and had like crazy stunts and wild special effects in them. But I do think that they're just as relevant and they're more creative than ever before, because people are really finding ways to use their resources wisely and putting a lot of thought and time into not just making the video, but figuring out how to promote it wisely and market themselves through that.
I will also add, like, you know, we've had examples where, you know, we have artists that do really resonate with long form, nice videos, but then we've gone and done a like visualizer for a track and it's outperformed video. And as the head of creative, I'm like, oh no, because, you know, I want to do all these big, beautiful films all the time, but, you know, it doesn't make sense. And that's the tricky thing. And coming from management in my background, it is like having to have those conversations with artists sometimes, because those ones who are very, like, we all aware of artists that some people do go in a studio and they're writing a movie to the track while they're making that song. Like that is some people's process. And but to your point, it's like there are so many awesome opportunities to create other creative pieces and other platforms where they can have that creativity. And especially, I don't want to go on a tangent, but with AI as well, there's a lot more space that you can go off and maybe achieve that idea you had and still be able to like keep costs realistic and be able to get more bang for your buck, which ultimately is, because, you know, like we said, there's no point going to spend 50 grand if you're going to get 20,000 views. What's the point, you know, like.
Just all speaks to having a clear conversation up front
Yeah.
about what's meaningful for that artist. I also thought, Dan, on the Ginger Root example, I think you touched on it before, you were able to get behind the scenes at the same time, which then the amount of traction you had on that showed people really wanted to consume the full length version of the music video.
Yeah, I think we really encourage the artists to handle behind the scenes, and it doesn't have to be like necessarily like we just have people with film cameras all behind the scenes handling that stuff. And Cameron's like extremely savvy, and he edits all his own music videos. He shoots and directs them all. I think like with that universe building aspect of it, if you can kind of try and tie in the behind the scenes footage and give people an option to dig a little bit deeper and feel like they're like bought into something and feel like they're a part of something, like that's very hard to do, I think. But when it works, it can be like massively successful. And I think, like I was going to say earlier, but you're speaking to like the Gen Z aspect of kind of their role in all of this, and like as they become a growing sort of market segment for our industry, I feel like YouTube videos have been so essential to all of their understanding of music. I mean, there's countless videos that, like for that Loretta video, that all the related videos are these iconic, like 500 million, a billion view indie releases that some are like self-released, self-distributed artists on the side. And I think it speaks to the fact that there is a space for that. And if an artist can create compelling content for YouTube, it will, I don't know, it gives you your own platform where you're not relying upon editorial support or, you know, like, I don't know, playlisting and pitching for publicity looks always. Like, you can generate your own organic push behind things that just makes it so much more powerful. So we're so pro the long form and building that sort of universe around things, because I think Gen Z really values that in the artists that they love.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we're down to just a few minutes left here, so I didn't know if anyone had any questions for us. I see one back there. Hi.
He's gonna bring you a mic.
Speaking to the short form video creation, I just am curious, in your companies, are you relying on the artist to do that for the most part, or are you using employees, or are you hiring out to people to try and craft those short form things? I mean, speaking from my own experience, it seems most authentic when it's coming from the artists themselves, but I do have the same situation where I have a lot of artists who have no interest in TikTok, but are like, okay, we'll do it because you want us to. So I'm trying to see like what you feel would be the best practices for getting that creation to happen when you maybe have a reluctant artist.
Are you management or label?
I'm a label.
Okay, so I think for us, we've had to, some artists definitely don't want to get involved with TikTok, and our digital team will then like take them into TikTok and meet people there and like realize, oh, these are like great people that want to support us. And like, there's a, I think it demystifies it a little bit. Like you were saying, it's like, I think there's like definitely a case of some platforms feel like a big scary place, or, so we tailor it. Like we work with an agency that for some artists, and then some artists who are naturally like into self-shooting, we just kind of flood them with ideas. We also have an in-house like content creator. So if any of our artists are in LA, like for example, Albert Hammond Jr. is on our label, and like he gets on with our content person. So she's going around his house today to shoot some bits with him. So it really, we have to tailor it to just try and, but I think the big part with the ones that are reluctant is like really try and work with those partners that you want to get them on, so they can really see, oh, these are like real people, and there is like emotion connected here, and there's creativity, and then like hopefully that will like demystify it and let it not feel like such a massive big scary place for them.
Hello, my name is Jason. Question for you all. So in terms of, artists, whether they're on your record label, whether your management team, and they're looking to work with videographers, to shoot whether it's a long video or whether it's two shorts, what does it look like in terms of financing and figuring out options for them to best go about, like, so the videographer has their fair share of the pie in terms of like the returns, and just on the equity side of things, like what does that look like if there is no upfront like payment, and whether it's for like artists who don't have the financial resources to like pay for a big budget short form video or long video, what does it look like?
I think like that's a pretty subjective experience. I think if there's an artist who's working with a hands-on creative collaborator, like someone who's a reoccurring kind of almost sort of like part of the team, if they're sort of essential in that process, whether they're shooting the video or they're a producer or something, I think as it scales, like incentivizing it the way you incentivize a producer on the back end, having points the same way that the film and TV industry works. I think being able to offer that while it's not as lucrative, because the back end on a lot of the stuff for YouTube royalty-wise is not as beneficial at times. I think like doing that in creative incentive, but still making sure that they're compensated at what their day rate is on the front end, and just being transparent about budgets, I think is essential. You can't, if the person needs $50,000 to make a video and you have $5,000 budgeted, you can't make the video that they want to make. So I think it's a balance. I think, sometimes it can feel easy to promise back into people on stuff that doesn't have any potential to make money on the front end. But if it's something that's scaling and they've been a part of it since the beginning, I think it's a great way to think about it. And I think it also creates equity for more people on a project that's doing well. So that's something that we've considered and worked with like long-term collaborators on.
I think we're out of time, but thank you everyone for coming. Really appreciate it.